This is, I want it, I deserve it, I'm going to get it. I want to have 4 tracks across the Hackensack River that never have to open. So instead of being down where there's, and in fact, when you ride the train now from Secaucus to Newark, you're on a flat railroad. It's up, it's lifted up out of the marsh, the mud, the swamp, sorry, the ecosystem.
Yes.
And the Portal Bridge, for instance, has a clearance of 23 feet. So now you're going to build an artificial hill of more like 30 feet to provide a perfect world. Why not just build one new bridge with 2 tracks, keep the Portal Bridge in place? When do you need 4 tracks? At rush hour. And the maritime folks are prohibited from crossing, the bridge will not open at rush hour during the peak periods. So somebody that was cheap would say, let's just build 2 more tracks. We get them into operation while we'll run our trains over that. We'll fix up the Portal Bridge, but we're not going to rebuild the whole line. But these numbers reflect there is no limit.
4 tracks.
Everything is the way you want it.
Right.
In Manhattan, on 34th Street, they had escalators coming up to the street level. And how many subway stations have an escalator that takes you from the street level down to the mezzanine, which is typically 15, 16 feet down? Very few. Most of us can walk 15 or 16 feet. That increased the price of their real estate because they needed more space for the escalators. And it's just, this is what we're going to have. It's going to be a perfect world. So let's go back. Since 2003, we had everything. We lost east side access with the original ARC plan, and then they cut the connection to Penn, and all we had was capacity. But this is what you want, and this is the number that's really important to remember.
Right.
This is from the MIS study. 70, and I don't know how far a walk is. It's out of the report. We're quoting somebody else. 70% of midtown jobs are within walking distance of Grand Central. 36% are within walking distance of Penn. So, which station is more important? Grand Central.
Sure.
Not because of the station itself, but because of what it has access to. This is why East Side access is so valuable. You get people out of their cars that now drive to the East Side. You get people out of the buses that go to the Port Authority bus terminal. And if you're going to go to Penn Station, just north of Penn Station, a lot of those people aren't going to go. Not going to go anywhere. So what we've done, and this I'll go through it quickly, we've been taking media folks, legislative people, administration people on walking tours to show them that you can actually build 2 tracks under the river into Penn Station today. And then Penn Station can actually accommodate more trains if you have 2 more tunnels. And the reason for that, and this is the route we took.
Did you say 2 more tunnels?
2 more tunnels, 2 more tracks, 2 more single track tunnels.
Did the Pennsylvania Railroad envision adding 2 more tracks in 1910?
And in fact, let me just go here. Here's the west side storage yard for the Long Island Railroad. You see how it tapers down? This is it's the Associated Press building. The address is like 450 West 33rd Street. It's a bridge. It spans the west side yard tracks, the approach tracks to the tunnel, and some storage tracks on the south side. And the plan always, that Amtrak plan you saw, everything always came in right under this building. And once you got to 10th Avenue, you were home free because there were tracks already there. Now, New Jersey Transit was saying, you're going to have to tear the building down to put the tracks under there. They had a whole host of arguments. So we started this tour to say, to basically argue against, to dispel the claims that were really rabid at Trenton and Newark. We were saying, go to Penn. They were saying, you can't. They said too many obstacles, too hard to get there. Penn Station is maxed out. No matter what you do, you can't run more trains in. Our station, 20 stories deep, is not a problem. It's not inconvenient. It's not a security risk. The hell it isn't a security risk. And we can extend it to the east. It's not a problem. And you really need to spend all this money. And it turns out it's a lot more than that, $10 billion. So we started the tour, and what we call it, it's now Moynihan Penn Station first, recognizing that New York is spending money finally on the Moynihan project. But the idea is go to Penn Station first, and later go to Grand Central. That's why it's Penn Station first. And you connect the tunnels into Penn Station, you fix up Penn Station itself, and then you remanage Penn Station. the way it's done today. And what you get out of it is the capacity, you get the redundancy because you've now got 4 tunnels, 4 tracks in the Penn under the river, and east side access in the future. And I showed you before that picture of how you would get the Long Island, the New Jersey Transit trains by the subway trains at Grand Central. They check the constructability out of connecting to Grand Central. It's not a mirage, it's a real deal.
No trouble with the water tunnel or anything like that?
No.
Okay.
The water tunnel, actually, the lower level of this 180-foot deep station that they were going to build under 34th Street, the top of rail is 5 feet above the top of the water tunnel.
Oh my God.
It's so deep, it's actually down there. So yes, there's a problem doing that.
Yeah.
But this plan basically would be adding 2 more tracks under putting 2 tracks under 31st Street. There's already 2 tracks under 32nd Street and 2 under 33rd. That's how you get from Penn Station to Long Island and eventually to Connecticut on Amtrak. So they're up, way up.
What is that? How deep are they? Like 30 feet?
50. When you're in Penn Station, you're just below sea level.
Yeah.
You're about 45 feet. Top of rail is 50 feet
50.
below ground. You start to drop, but you're much higher than the 180 feet.
And it sounds like tracks under 31st Street were envisioned
Yes.
in 1910.
Except they envisioned them going to Long Island City.
Oh, of course, right.
They would have never thought about going to Grand Central because those were the bad guys.
Commodore Vanderbilt's railroad. I mean.
Yeah, yeah. In fact, when they built Penn Station, they were very worried about the depth of the station because at Grand Central they were designing, it already had a station, the older Grand Central, where you could walk in and get on the train. So the idea of going down any steps was a concern.
Yep.
That's why the station is relatively short ceilings, is to keep the depth down. And they use stairs, not escalators. So what we're saying is, we said, don't build 34th Street, go to Penn. What they did in 2008 is they said, don't go to Penn, go to 34th Street. So we basically said, do the opposite.
And it's absolutely true that the New Jersey Transit dead-end plan does not really have a possibility to connect to Grand Central. Is that a fair statement?
Yeah, and there's 2 reasons for that. First of all, this is the draft environmental impact statement, and they got way ahead of themselves. They got a bill passed by Congress to allow them to do their design work before they'd done their environmental review work.
Oh my God.
Normally, you're supposed to stage it. They were doing it in parallel, and they forgot to talk to the city about the water tunnel. And when they did, the city came back and said, not only can you not have tail tracks here, this was the station, and then tail tracks behind it. They said, you got to be 200 feet away from our tunnels.
Oh boy.
They had to pay the designers to move the entire deep cavern thing, that half-mile long, 70 feet west. And when I was at the Long Island Railroad, when you change something 70 feet, you might as well change it 700 feet. So they had a very rude awakening, and they just had not talked to and here they are doing heavy-duty design. So these are the issues that have been raised at different times, and there was a Freedom of Information Act application, they call it Oprah in New Jersey. The Democrats, John Wisniewski is the head Democrat in the state, demanded to know all about the project. And one of the things that got the first drop of 300 pages, and that's what they do, they just hit you with 300 pages, and somewhere in there maybe is what you need. There is a write-up where their head media guy is talking to a guy named Paul Mulshine, who's a columnist in New Jersey, who I took on a tour very early, who'd seen everything, and Paul Wyckoff, the media guy at New Jersey Transit, writes him and says, there's this, this, and this, you can't get to Penn Station. Unfortunately, Paul had been on the tour and had seen it. And simple fact, all these things were looked at in the draft environmental impact statement. An underwater cofferdam, you have to lay stuff on top of the crud on the bottom of the river when the tunnel gets really shallow so you don't have blowouts. When you're digging a tunnel in the soft, it's like 30% water under the Hudson River, same as what they did in 1910. They laid clay down on top of those original tunnels in the East River. On a clear day, you can actually see the 4 lines on clay. This is the modern version of that.